Okay, my goal today is to help you guys understand everything you need to know from Chapter 10 for our quiz coming up on Friday. What I want you to do is take out your red pens for me, and I'd like you to draw a cloud around this important information up here at the top. Now, on our last quiz that we had over 10.1 through 10.3, you had a cheat sheet at the top of your quiz. That cheat sheet will not be there on this quiz on Friday or on your test next Wednesday. So here's the deal. I am not going to make you write in the answers, but it will be a matching section. So right now I want to talk to you about some important ways that you could easily, hopefully match some of these problems. Let's look at these first two words, guys. What are those first two words up there? Surface area. So we know a surface area could only be something that starts with what? SA. So if you know you're looking for surface area of, let's say, the rectangular prism. Think about this word rectangular. What shape is that? A rectangle. Guys, what's the very basic simple formula we have memorized for a rectangle? Length times width. As I look at all of these problems over here, or formulas, that start with an SA, there's only one that says length times width in it. Which one is it? The very first one at the top, where it says right here, length times width. So you could easily, at that point, match the surface area of a rectangular prism would have to be that one. Okay? Let's find a way that we can look at this next one. This next one right here says triangular prism. Guys, what shape is triangular prism?
1/2
A triangle, okay? What's the formula for a triangle? 1/2 times base times height. Of all of these ones, since I know I'm looking for surface area, of all of these surface area ones right here, which one mentions 1/2 times base times height? This one right here. So I would know that this would have to be the formula when I'm matching. Does this make sense? Okay, let's go on to the next shape, a cylinder. Guys, what shape or what object did I bring into our class for you to look at that was a cylinder?
Pringles.
The Pringles can, okay? Look at this Pringles can I have right here. What shape is the top?
Circle.
What shape is the bottom? So we know there's two bases on this prism. And if it's a circle, do you guys remember the formula for a circle? A equals pi r squared. Look right here. Pi r squared. And as we know, the cylinder has two, so this would hopefully also be an easy match. Is everyone understanding? Okay, so now this next one, the pyramid, this is kind of a tricky one. So you're just going to have to remember, it's talking about the base. How many bases does a pyramid have? Only one. Look at all of my shapes that I have right here. These are all bases right here. There's just one of the bases down there on the bottom. So that's a pyramid. Let's go on to the next one down here. The lateral surface area of a cylinder. Can anyone tell me how you could guess easily what that formula would be? Kyla.
It's a cylinder, and you need to have the pi.
Can you help her, Christopher?
It's only LA.
It's the only LA. Look, if this is talking about lateral surface area, this is the only one that has lateral surface area. Another clue for you as you're matching these together. Now, these last two right here are what we've talked about the last 2 days, 10.4 and 10.5. Volume. What does volume start with? A V. So you are simply just going to have memorized. If it's looking for volume, it has to be one of these formulas. All right, so at this point, you're just going to have to remember, a prism is just going to be, this is one of those memorized. V equals capital base times height. And whenever you have a pyramid, it's V equals 1/3 times capital base times height. And we'll talk once again in just a little bit about why that is a capital B instead. Just remember, these are a matching section on your quiz Friday and your test next week on Wednesday. So you've got to have a way that you can match those up in order to know those formulas. Okay? Okay, so we are finding the surface area and the volume of the same exact object. The first part we're going to be doing is for the surface area. Now, this is only underneath problem A, so be careful not to squish all the way over into problem B too much, because that's going to be for the volume. Did you guys figure out what the formula is for this shape?
The first one.
Okay, what is this shape? A rectangular prism. Very good. So we're going to write down the formula for a surface area of a rectangular prism. How many of you already wrote that formula down? Before we can move on, I want us to identify what the length, the width, and the height is of this shape. Looking at it first, let's find the easiest one, the height. That's the part that goes up and down. Which one is the height? The 7, very good. Now the one on the side. Is the one on the side the width or the length? It is the width, so let's put a little W there, which makes the 3, it has to be our length. Very good. So now we're just going to start plugging things in. Okay? 2 times the length, which is 3, times the width, which is 9. Plus 2 times the length, which we know is 3, and the height, which is 7. Plus 2 times the width, which is 9, and the height, which is 7. Now we're just kind of working left to right. Remember, we want to multiply together first before we add them together. Kyla, what is that first part that I underlined there? 2 times 3 times 9.
59.
Not 59.
Oh, 2 times 27.
What is 2 times 27?
54.
54, there we go. Then let's go on to the next one. 2 times 3 times 7. Is there anyone who has that one? Zariana, what is it?
42.
42, very good. Plus, we're going to multiply this last part together. 2 times 9 times 7. Kaylin, what do you get when you do that? 126, very good. What's the last thing I need to do with all those numbers, class?
Add them up.
Add them up. Anson, when you do that, what do you get? All right, excellent. 222. Now I'm finding surface area. Guys, what do I have to do with the units when it's the area? We square the units, okay? So we've got centimeters squared in this case. All right, so looking at the next one, we are still looking at the same exact shape here, this rectangular prism, okay? So we still know this is our height, this is our width, that's our length. Before we do anything else with volume, you have to know what the shape is of the base. Guys, what shape is the base of this? A rectangle. So what I'd like you to do, if you would, we know that we're finding the volume, which is capital base times height. With your red pen, I want you to write there next to the word volume that the base is a rectangle, okay? This is important to find because if you remember from what I've taught you in both 10.4 and 10.5, that capital B will never be a number. That capital B has to be a formula. So I have to plug in a formula for whatever the base shape is. In this case, we know the base shape is a rectangle. Guys, just think back to way back the more simpler times of just finding the area of a rectangle. What was that formula, guys? Length times width. So what's going to happen here? Instead of that capital B that I just highlighted there, I have to put a formula in there. And that formula is length times width for the base down there. Okay, once again, we know the base or the bottom down here was a rectangle. Okay, and then you have to multiply by the height of the whole object. So I also bring down that height up there. Now let's start plugging some numbers in. Lexi, what's the length of this shape?
3 centimeters.
3. What's the width?
9.
Okay, so I'm multiplying it. And what's the height?
7.
Very good. All you have to do is multiply those all together. Aubrey, when you do that, what do you get for the volume of this rectangular prism? 189 centimeters what? It's the volume. Cubed is correct. Very good job. All right, guys, first things first, we're finding the surface area. So you know your formula has to start with a what?
SA.
An SA, okay? So looking at the top of your notes, there are 4 formulas that start with surface area. Guys, what kind of a shape is this? A triangular prism. Remind me again, how many bases does a prism have?
2.
It has 2, and a pyramid has 1. So when I'm thinking of this, I like to think of a visual. It's similar to my Toblerone candy bar that I have here. So we are going to start off with writing the formula down. If you look up at the top, you can see that it's 2 equals 1/2 times base times height, which makes sense because there are 2 triangles there. Then you have to add the area of the lateral faces. Remind me again, guys, what does a lateral face mean?
The rectangle. Oh,
Another word.
The sides.
It's the sides, okay? So it's the sides of whatever our object is. Now let's talk once again about the base. Guys, what shape is my base?
Oh, yeah.
Remember, there are only 2 bases on a prism. So don't get tricked up thinking that the base here, even though it looks like the bottom is a rectangle, you got to just think about this. It's like they laid it flat on its side, but this base is a triangle, okay? So if you would, with your red pen up there at the top, I want you to write that the base is a triangle. This is going to help us, especially when we get to our volume part. All right, so let's start plugging some things in. 2 times 1/2 times base. Let's think about the base just of the triangle. Guys, what's the base of that triangle? It is a 4, and then the height is a 3. All right, now let's talk about the area of the lateral faces. What shape are those lateral faces?
Rectangles.
Okay, the triangles are the bases, so the lateral faces, the ones on the sides, are rectangles. How many rectangles are there?
3.
There's 3 of them, so I have to do plus length times width, plus length times width, plus length times width again. Remember, you can't just say 3 times length times width because you don't know if all of those rectangles are going to be the same length or not. Okay, let's keep going. Right here, we've got 2. Let's just think of this next part right here. Okay, if I did this part, what's half of 4? 2. And then if you multiply it by that 3, what's 2 times 3?
6.
Okay, very good. Then let's focus on these rectangles over here. One of the rectangles that I see is down there at the bottom. Guys, what's the length and width of that one? 8 and 4. Plus, let's look at another rectangle. Do you guys see this rectangle right here at the top? What's that length?
8 and 5.
8 and 5. Okay, you could say 8 times 5. You could say 5 times 8. Order doesn't matter in that case. There's one more rectangle. Did you guys see where it was at? It looks like it's kind of on that back side over there. Okay, now, we still have to figure out what that length is. How do you figure out what that length is?
3.
Look at whichever one is parallel to it. You could see the 8 as he just mentioned. So this is a 3 by 8. Does that make sense? Okay, let's keep going. We're just going to multiply these out. First things first, help me out, Justice. 2 times 6? Very good. Addison, 4 times 8? Very good. Zion, 5 times 8? Excellent. Anson, 3 times 8? 24. Finally, Gerard, what should I do? Add them all up. Gerard, when you add those together, what did you get? Close. Who can help me with what that should be? Caleb, what is it? 108. And then Caleb, what are the units?
Inches squared.
Inches squared. Why did we square the units? Because it is finding the area. Very good. All right, looking at this whole thing right here, we know once again, and we already talked about it, the base is a triangle. You can tell that because there are 2 bases, okay? So, help me out, class. What's the formula for this one?
V equals capital B H.
Thank you for saying capital B, okay? Once again, we know the base is talking about that triangle right there, okay? So, Kaylin, help me with this one. What is the shape of my base? A triangle. So, instead of having a capital B, remember I am going to plug in a formula for that capital B. Kaylin, what is the formula I'm plugging in for that capital B?
1/2 base times height.
Very good. Okay, and then she remembered you still have to bring down that H that we have up at the top. This is probably the hardest part. People cannot visualize this. This is tricky. If these are my bases, and you can see as I'm looking at it, I want to put the base down at the bottom, okay? So what would the height be of this thing right here?
8.
The 8. That's very good, okay? A lot of people get tricked up on that. But I want you to take your red pen and put a red H next to that the height. A lot of people would say the 3 is the height. But be careful because you got to put it down on its base instead of letting it lay flat like it's taking a nap. Okay? Back to Kaylin. Let's talk about the base first things first. Half times, what is the base of that triangle? 4 times 3, very good. And what is the height of the whole prism? 8 is correct, as we just talked about. Okay? Now let's keep going. What is half of 4? It's okay. Let's talk about this. Guys, what's half of 4?
2.
What's 2 times 3?
6.
And what's 6 times 8? 48. So inches cubed, very good, because we are finding the volume of the object. All right, the next one, we're finding once again the surface area and the volume of the object. The first thing I want us to do is discover what kind of an object is this, guys? It is a pyramid. Before we move on, what kind of a base does this pyramid have? A square. If you guys would, please. We're going to look back at our formulas. We know we're looking for surface area, and you told me it was a pyramid. So what's the formula?
S squared.
Area of base plus area of lateral.
There you go. Anytime it's a pyramid, it has the long formula, okay? Before we move on, we do want to figure out what kind of a base do I have?
Square.
It is a square. So with your red pen, everybody, I want you to put right there that the base is a square. Okay? So this is the information you want to make sure you got before you start anything else. All right. You told me the base was a square. So guys, what's the formula? Just the basic formula for a square.
S squared.
S squared. So you've got to plug that in. On the last quiz we had, a lot of people just looked over here and they're like, oh, the base is a 3, and they just stuck a 3 there. Be careful. You have to put in a formula when it's asking you for area of a base. Plus, area of lateral faces. Guys, what does a lateral face mean? The sides. How many sides are there on this thing?
4.
There's 4 of them because there was a square there. And what shape are my sides?
Triangles.
Triangles. Very good job. Now let's start plugging in some numbers. Halen, what is the base?
3.
3. Very good. Now we knew this was a square because remember every pyramid, if this is a 3, that means this is a 3, which means this one back there is a 3, which means this one over here is a 3, okay? So we are going to plug in 3 squared. Plus, there's 4 triangles. Guys, what's the formula for a triangle?
1/2.
Good job. Now that will have to be memorized. 1/2 times base times height. Let's keep working. Heather, what is 3 squared? 9 is correct. Plus, we've got 4 times half of the base. Now we're talking about the lateral face over here that I just highlighted in orange. Guys, once again, what is the base?
3.
It is 3 because it's the same as that other one because all of these are polygons, which means they have the same exact size on the sides. So we've got half times 3, and what's the height? 8, very good. Okay, so I'm going to do this parenthesis work first. Guys, what is half, or let's do 3 times 8. What's 3 times 8? 24. What is half of 24? 12, very good. Now let's work kind of backwards. What's 4 times 12? 48, and we've got to add in that 9. When you do that, what do you get?
57 centimeters squared.
Okay, centimeters squared, and why did we square the units? Because we're finding the surface area. All right, Kyla, I know you said you wanted to help us with this one. So let's talk first, Kyla. What is the shape of the base?
Square.
Okay, it's a square. So at the beginning of every quiz, I want you to tell me what the shape of that base is. Kyla, what shape is this whole thing? It is a pyramid, okay? So what formula are we using for volume of a pyramid?
B equals 1/3 capital B H.
Excellent. Thank you for saying capital B. Remember, when we have a capital B, I am not allowed to plug in a number. I have to plug in a what, class?
A formula.
A formula. Back to Kyla.
So 1/3, and then the base is square, so S squared
Excellent.
times the height, and put down the 1/3, and then the side is 3 squared times 8.
And what is the H?
8.
8. Good job. If you remember, guys, anytime that you see this thing on the side right here, it looks like an H. That's a clue that that is your height for something, okay? Kyla, what should I do next in the order of PEMDAS?
You should change the exponent to 9.
Excellent. Okay, so we know that those exponents equal 9 because 3 squared equals 9.
A third of 9 is 3.
Okay.
8 equals 24.
Excellent. A third of 9, as she said, is 3, and 3 times 8 equals 24. And what are your units?
Centimeters cubed.
Centimeters cubed, because we were finding the volume. All right, guys, as always, before we move on to do anything else, tell me what shape my base is.
Triangle.
A triangle. Take your red pen, and I want you guys to write that down. The base is a triangle. Now, overall, what is the shape you see here?
Pyramid.
It is a pyramid. So I've got to go back there. I'm looking for surface area. So what does my formula have to start with?
130.
SA.
SA, because that's the surface area, okay? So SA equals, and now I'm looking for a pyramid formula. Once again, you'll be able to go back to the beginning of your test where you've hopefully matched up the correct formulas and write in, I am looking for, since it's a pyramid, the area of the base plus the area of the lateral faces. Remind me again, guys, what is a lateral face?
The side.
It is the side. Very good. So you just told me the base is a triangle. Justice, what is the formula for area of a triangle? Very good. So we're going to plug that in. 1/2 times base times height. And that is just focusing on the bottom or the base of this pyramid. Plus, Heather, how many lateral faces do I have if the base was a triangle? Think of how many sides a triangle has. 3, okay? Because a triangle has 3 sides, it has to have 3 lateral faces. Class, on every pyramid, what is the shape of the lateral face?
Triangle.
A triangle, which is 1/2 times base times height, okay? So let's plug in right now. We are only talking about the bottom, that part that I just highlighted in black. 1/2 times, Aubrey, what's the base of the bottom triangle? 6 is correct, times 6. And what is the height of the bottom triangle, Aubrey? 5. Good job. We're looking at that down there. It's pointing to, once again, that little thing that looks like an H that tells us the bottom. So that would be a 5. Okay, plus, remember, we know the 3 triangles on the side. That's talking about that tall orange triangle that I just put right there. And you can see that that's the base and the height of that orange triangle, all right? So, because it was 6 on the right-hand side, it also has to be 6 on the left-hand side for that base. So we are going to be multiplying 1/2 times the base. Guys, what's the base of that orange triangle? Say again. 6, very good. What's the height of the orange triangle? 10. Is everyone following so far? Okay, now we're just starting to plug in the numbers. Okay, let's talk about this. Guys, what's half of 6? 3. What's 3 times 5? 15. Plus, we've got 3 lateral faces or 3 triangles on the side. Just the boys. What is half of 6?
3.
3. What's 3 times 10? 30. All right, Gerard, what should I do next, according to PEMDAS? Multiply. Gerard, what's 3 times 30? 90. And now I'm adding up 90 plus 15. When I do that, Caleb, what do I get?
105 feet squared.
Okay, and we are squaring the units because why?
Surface area.
Because we're talking about the area. All right, guys, before we get started on this, first things first, what shape is my base?
Triangle.
Take out that red pen. Please make sure it's written there somewhere that we know the shape of that base is a triangle. We are finding volume, so your formula has to start with a V. So I go back to where I'm trying to figure out, and I'm looking for volume of a, is this a prism or is this a pyramid? How can you tell it's a pyramid?
Because it has one base.
It only has one base. So guys, what's the formula?
1/3 B, capital B.
Okay, thank you for remembering capital base. All right, Kaylin, 1/3 times the capital B. What am I turning that into? Excellent. Remember, a capital B has to be turned into a formula, not a number. All right? And then I still have to multiply by the H, or the height of the whole thing. Okay? Kaylin, back to you. 1/3 times 1/2. What is the base? 6. And what is the height of the base? 5. Very good. Okay, remember that little line right there that I just did in red means the height of the bottom. And what's the height of the whole pyramid? Times 10. Very good. All right, I want us to work inside the parentheses first. Kaylin, what's half of 6? 3. What is 3 times 5? 15. Very good. So now I know I've got 1/3 times. That whole mess in there is now 15 times 10. Let's do some more mental math, okay? I could technically say that's 15 over 1. Kaylin, what could I reduce there? The 3 and the 15, what do they become?
Hold on. Okay. The 15 okay, the 3 becomes
A 1.
yeah.
And the 15 becomes a 5 because the 3 can go into it 5 times, okay? Then finally, Kaylin, we've got 5 times 10 left, so what is 5 times 10?
50.
50 what?
Feet cubed.
Feet cubed is correct. All right, so now we're doing some more review here. Classify the angles, find the value of x. Guys, when you see a straight line like this down there, how many degrees is that straight line?
180.
It is 180. I want you to take your red pens and put 180 degrees. If something is 180 degrees, what kind of angle is that? It is a supplementary angle. On the last quiz, a lot of people just left it like that, but it also asks you to find the value of x. So here's what I want you to know. This number plus this number equals that number. So we're going to say 117 plus x equals 180. Guys, how do I get x by itself? Subtract by 117 on both sides. When you do that, what does it tell us x is? 63 degrees. All right, let's look at the next one. This one's got this little tiny box that tells us it's a what kind of angle? A right angle. Okay, how many degrees is a right angle?
90.
90 degrees. I'm going to put a little 90 degrees here in red. Guys, if it adds up to 90 degrees, what kind of an angle is it? Complementary. All right, so now it asks us to find out how much is x worth. The way you can do that is we know this 4x plus 2x equals 90 degrees. Now, guys, that's both part of the x family, so I can add them together. What's 4x plus 2x? 6x equals 90 degrees. How do I get x by itself?
Divide on both sides.
Good job. We're going to divide by 6 on both sides, which tells me
15 degrees.
15 degrees. All right, let's look at this next problem. It kind of looks like an X there. Guys, what kind of angles are these?
Vertical.
Vertical. There's something that we know about vertical angles. Does anyone remember what we know about them?
They're equal on both sides.
They are equal on both sides, which means that one equals that one. So 7x equals x plus 42. Okay? Let's just talk about this real quick. How many x's is that I circled right there?
1.
It's just 1, so I can put an imaginary 1 there. My whole goal is to get the x by itself, all right? So let's see if we can at least combine the x's. Let's get rid of that 1x. How do I get rid of positive 1x?
Negative 1x.
Negative 1x, or subtract by 1x on both sides. So this eliminates the x's on that side. Let's look at this, guys. What's 7x minus 1x?
6x.
6x equals, and on the left side, I'm left with 42 degrees. Now, how do I get the x by itself? Divide by 6 on both sides. What's the answer? 7 degrees. Now listen, on our notes, we still have one more page that's going to help us for our quiz on Friday, but we've run out of time today, so we will finish up the last couple problems tomorrow in class.